That's a charm. Now we're live. We're live for real.
We're live. We're live for real. For reals.
We're all like, I feel like we're all producers and studio people now that need to know way too much about technology. Let me just make sure that YouTube is with us.
YouTube is not with us yet.
YouTube is with us.
I see us on YouTube, man.
There we go.
Look at this. It's amazing.
There we are. Look at that. Hey, all right. Everybody's watching this like, what is going on? Hey, everybody. Welcome to a day of technical difficulties. No, that's not what this is. This is the first ever LearnShop. I want to welcome you. I'm Burke, Holland. I'm here with John Papa, who's above me, Brady Bunch style, and Craig Shoemaker, who is below me. And today we are going to try something kind of new. We're going to go through a Learn module that we have for you on migrating an Express app, and you get to follow along. And John and I are going to do that, and Craig is going to be in the comments on YouTube Live, helping you if you get stuck. Should take about an hour. And that's really all I know. My job here is to learn with you. Actually, John's in charge. So John, what are we doing today?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Burke. Today, we're going to learn how to use COBOL on the internet with an abacus.
Awesome. I'm going to go update my resume directly.
Today, we're going to go through a Learn module up on the Microsoft website. For those of you who are not familiar with this, a Learn module is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's a learning module or a way for you to learn online, live, hands-on, right inside a website. And we're going to take you right through step-by-step the Learn module so you can learn how to take a Node Express API and turn that into a serverless API using Azure Functions. And I'm going to be the storyteller today. Burke is going to be the learner. He'll be learning along with you, and Craig will be taking your comments. Before we get started, though, Burke, there's a great event coming up very soon. Do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, this is coming up here at the end of September, I believe. And the event is called Create Serverless. So we had a Create Front-End event that was that the end of July? Was it that long ago now? I think it was.
Somewhere in 2020, yes.
Yeah, so we have a brand new event. It's all about serverless with some phenomenal guests here. I see a wild Chris Coyer appears from CSS Tricks. We've got Chris Nwamba. We've got even me. I'll be there. I don't know why they're letting me in, but you'll definitely want to join us for that. And that's a full day with a workshop at the very end. Again, all of this is free. It looks like you can head over to aka.ms/create serverless and register or add the invite to your calendar, but you definitely want to make sure you do that so we can see you again because we'll miss you.
As we shall. But today, the topic again is about serverless itself. So my name's John Papa. Again, you can find me up on Twitter after this wonderful session today that we're going to do. If you go up to Twitter and type in @John_Papa, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can also find my lovely cohorts, Craig Shoemaker and Burke Holland, up on Twitter. They got into Twitter before I did, so they don't have an underscore in their ID.
That's right. Early bird gets the worm.
That would keep
why is my picture in black and white and y'all's is in Technicolor? This is not fair.
Yeah, that's because your life is in black and white, I believe.
That's true.
Yes.
I see things one of two ways.
We're gonna have a lot of fun today, folks. Hopefully there'll be lots of parent jokes all day today. So what are we gonna do today? Let's go through first the agenda is we're gonna show you what you're gonna do, kind of explain what the process is and what your goal is for the day. So you and Burke, the learners, can figure out what we're actually going to accomplish. And then we're going to just dive right in. So what are you going to do? First, Burke, you're going to run and debug a Node Express API. You might be wondering, where do you get this application? We're actually going to give you the application. It's in a GitHub repo, ready to go in a starting state. Then you're going to create an Azure Functions application. Makes sense? We didn't have one in the app, so we're going to create an Azure Functions project. And then we're going to create our first, second, third, and fourth endpoints in that Azure Functions app. The Node Express app does our gets and our posts and our puts and our deletes. We're going to move those over to our Azure Functions app. Then we're going to refactor a little bit of code to go from Express to serverless. And I think you're going to be amazed at how little code you actually have to change. It's really quite mind-blowing. And then finally, we're going to run and debug the app because unless you run it, it isn't for real. So we're going to show you how to run this app and also debug it in VS Code, not using Express, but now using Azure Functions instead.
And we're going to do all this in an hour?
Yeah, I think we left an hour and a half because we, just in case, but it's about an hour long.
All right.
All right, so what are we actually trying to accomplish here? Here's a picture version of it because I like visual learning. Basically, you're going to have a web browser and an app. The application is using Angular on the front end, but it could be Vue, React, Svelte, or whatever your favorite is. Burke, what's your favorite?
Dojo, for sure.
Awesome.
Never forget.
I remember Dojo.
Where are my Dojo folks?
EXT.js?
Kendo UI. Kendo UI.
There we go. Progress love. So we're going to have a front end up there, but we're going to change the back end. Effectively, we get this Node Express API, and we're going to swap that out for a serverless API. Now, anytime somebody tells you to do something and how to do it, that's great. But why? Why would you do this? Well, there's a couple of reasons that we want to hone in on. One is cost. You can actually spend a lot less money. It's really, really cheap to use serverless APIs. You don't have to purchase a server and all that either. Then there's also the speed side of things. So your functions can run super fast on these scaling servers, and you get super good scalability too. You also have great security because, again, you're not configuring your own server, so you don't have to worry about patches and all the security aspects of it because that's taken care of for you in the cloud. And then maintenance. There's just a lot less code. There's a lot less middleware. There's just a lot less of a lot of things when you're using serverless instead of Node Express. And we'll see that as we go through this Learn module. So that's really the goal here, is to reduce a lot of the burden of what we've been doing for decades, myself, building backends, and now make basically backend as a service in the cloud. And that's what serverless does in this particular case. So today, this is what we're going to do, and we're about ready to get going. So warm up your pencils and your keyboards. Microsoft Learn, this is the link that you need to know, and we'll show it again. This is where we're going to start. So if you'd like to click on this link, go for it or type it in. Craig, if you could put that in the chat for folks, that'd be fantastic.
It's already there.
Awesome.
Rock and roll.
So LS Express Serverless. That's for LearnShop Express Serverless. And this is what we're going to build. And then we're going to start switching over to Burke in just a moment. We're going to have you sign in to Microsoft Learn with your GitHub credentials. It'll just make things easier. And we're going to walk through those steps real quick, and then Burke's going to do it. First, we're going to go to the link to go to Learn. And then you're going to click Sign In, which should be in your upper right. Then we're going to click on Sign In Options. And then you're going to choose Sign In with GitHub. And then follow the prompts. We give you these steps here because I believe the sign in has multiple ways you can sign in. Signing in with GitHub is actually the smoothest experience in our experience. So that's where we're going to lead you towards. So with that, if you go ahead, if you haven't already, click on the link that Craig typed in or type it in off the screen here for LS Express Serverless. That's aka.ms ls-express-serverless. And with that, I'm going to let you know that I'm going to hand it off to Burke here. He's going to become the learner at this point, and we're going to get you all started and do this together.
Good luck.
All right. My screen's up. Nice. We got a lot of folks here. A couple quick shout outs. What's up, Enrique? What's up, Damien? Damien, I'm going to try to say your last name. Lamoureux? Did I get it? Was I close? Man. Awesome. We got some of our favorite coworkers. Glaucia's here. That's awesome. Hey, Simona, what's up? So many great people here. Look at this. Awesome.
Oh, Simona's in Italy too. I'm very jealous.
She is. That's not fair to me.
All right, Burke. So we have to sign in up here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm distracted. Thank you.
Where is that button?
Yeah, I'm the student. It's my job to be all over the place. All right. So I'm going to click sign in up on the right-hand corner. That's what you want me to do, right?
I do.
And now what do I do?
Now you would think that you can click on Burke Holland right there. But there should be I think you can click on the three dots to the far right. That's one option. You can sign in, sign out, sign in, etc. You can also use another account. Let's try that one.
You want to click on that?
Yeah.
All right.
Now down at the bottom there, you can see sign in options. That's going to lead you to the GitHub option. So I know that's a little maybe mysterious there. That's basically the steps. You want to click on sign in options, and then you want to choose sign in with a GitHub. And then once you're there, we all memorize Burke's password. We get prompted for this because we work for Microsoft. So
do I want to stay signed in? What's the benefit of doing this?
Is that your GitHub user ID that you use? Your notebook?
That's it. Yeah, same one.
Then you can stay signed in if you'd like. It's up to you.
We'll stay signed in. By the way, I think Craig, if you can drop Craig from the StreamYard.
I will drop Craig. Bye, Craig. Say bye, everybody.
Bye,
Craig's
everyone.
still here.
Craig's still
be
in
here.
the chat. So answer.
I'm monitoring all your chats.
Awesome.
He said, yeah. He said drop me, so we dropped him.
There we go. So Craig's going to stay in the chats there, but now we're into the Learn module. You'll know if you're signed in because you'll see your username, etc. in there. You should be able to click on that little icon. It should show it to you. Yep.
Oh, yeah, there I am.
So you are who you say you are.
I am one circle and a half circle. That's who I am.
Fantastic. Looks just like me and you.
The likeness is uncanny.
So if we kind of just go through what is a Learn module here, this is like the landing page of the Learn module. And the first thing it tells you is your learning objectives, which I think we already know. We want to move to a serverless API. But let's cover the prereqs, Burke, because this is what you need to have to get started. So Burke, do you have any knowledge of JavaScript?
Some knowledge of JavaScript would sum it up perfectly. That's actually on my resume. Has some knowledge of JavaScript.
You must be aware that JavaScript exists.
Yes, I have heard of it.
Some familiarity with Node and Express APIs, the fact that it is an API server.
Yes, I've heard of those. Have Googled them both.
And some familiarity with Azure Functions. You don't even have to have used them before, but just have to really know that they're serverless APIs.
Got that? Okay.
Cool. Now, this is what's got to be installed on your computer. Do you have Node installed?
I do. Affirmative. And for those who don't, which one do they need?
That's a good question. So I always choose LTS, not current, because that's always the safe bet.
What does that mean, LTS?
LTS means long, tall, short. No, actually it means long-term support. So LTS is the way that Node does their versioning. Every even number is basically the main numbers that get put out there for their versions. So 12, 14, then 16. And 12 is currently the one that they recommend people to use and has the longest support lifespan. 14 will become LTS at some point. If you want to learn more about that, you can click the link below where Burke's finger is on long-term support schedule. But
so generally we want LTS, because I'm always confused when I come here. I'm like, which one of these do you want me to have? Like, this one sounds right, but I also want to be current. So it's this one?
Yep, it's always the LTS. Current might have features that aren't necessarily implemented in some platforms at some times.
Okay.
Very cool. And Craig, some folks are asking for the link. If you could pop it back in there, that'd be great in the chat. Great. So you've got the big requirement, which is Node to run Express. Do you have Visual Studio Code installed?
I do have Visual Studio Code installed, and it has a light theme. And, you know, some people think dark themes are better, and
Yes, they are.
They're just wrong. That's not true. It's a light theme, so that's what we're doing today. My computer, my world. Everyone
That's
gets
right.
a light theme, even if
You're the
don't.
learner. You can choose your theme, your color, your font, even Comic Sans.
That's right. We'll code in Comic Sans today. Perfect. No one will ever come back.
So now you also need to have a debugger for Visual Studio Code. You can use the debugger for Chrome or the debugger for Edge, whichever browser you're going to use.
I've got the one for Chrome here because that's what was in the Learn module, but I also have the one for Edge.
Yep, and that's just your choice. So if you've got the one for Chrome installed, that's what the Learn module uses. That's what we'll pick.
Right.
Then there's another extension that you need in the prereqs. That is the Azure Functions extension, which I kind of glossed over the core tools because if you install the Azure Functions extension, it installs the Azure Function tools on your computer as well.
Yep. Yep. I have both of those things. Affirmative. Can verify. And in fact, here's Azure Function.
What button did you press to show that list?
To show which list? This over here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I clicked this this
Tetris board?
Yeah, the Tetris. I clicked the Tetris to play Tetris, and instead I'm going to play with extensions, apparently. And there's the debugger. There's the debugger for Edge. Here's Azure Functions. And
Cool.
here's the theme I'm using. Let's just get ahead of this. Everyone's going to ask this. Yeah, Christopher Hamilton. That's right, man. You know. I'm using the light theme. There's a dark theme here, but we won't go there. All right. Am I good?
You are good.
I can verify that I've got Node installed. I just opened the terminal with a control backtick, which is that key under the escape key, by doing Node version. And I do have 12.18.3. So
and as long as you have a version of 12, you have 12.16 or 12.14, all those are good. The patch version is not that important in this case, but just make sure, folks, that you've got version 12 would be ideal on your machine.
Rock and roll. I'm good.
All right, so we covered the prereqs. All of those, actually, if you haven't installed those yet, go ahead and do so now. It's actually pretty quick to install all these things. I think VS Code is less than 70 meg these days, so it's a pretty quick download.
Yeah, it's all pretty lightweight. Somebody is asking if there's a Brave debugger.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, no.
Now, if you use Brave or Safari, it's a good question. You don't have to change your default browser or anything to run through this. You just need to make sure you have either Chrome or Edge installed to do the debugging. If you don't want to do that, that's okay too. You just won't be able to do the debugging steps that we run through the Learn module, which isn't a huge deal if you don't want to go down that road. So if you're using Brave, more power to you. All right, let's flip back over to the prereqs. I think we've checked all those boxes.
I'm going to turn hiding on, get rid of this. Oh, look at that. More real estate. I think we have. Are we ready to get started?
Yeah, let's jump over to the introduction.
All right. Just click continue here.
That is not continue.
you want to go to the last step.
So one thing to be careful of, and just to let everybody know about here, is if you scroll to the top quick, Burke, we'll give everybody kind of the lay of the land of what a Learn module looks like. Notice in the top middle it says Unit 2 of 12. Thank you for pulling that down. This is basically the table of contents for a Learn module. We're skipping over the introduction because we basically just talked to you about that in the slides. We're going to do is do the exercise units. These, when I say go to this unit, that's what these steps are. We're going to start with exercise get started. And that's basically where we are. So you can always pull down that list to go there or click previous and next on the left and right.
Previous and next. Okay.
Perfect. And here I am clicking on the buttons on your screen, which isn't going to work.
Right, anyway.
Okay, so step one, we're going to go get the code. This is a really long thing to type, so please don't type it. Click the button that says copy. You can see it turns green. And then go over to your favorite terminal inside of VS Code or a blank terminal like Burke has got right here. Now, the obvious thing here is, maybe it's not so obvious, but whenever you clone something, you want to make sure that you're doing it in a folder where you're putting your projects.
Yeah, and I structure mine as I have like this dev folder, and then inside of it, I have all the different repos that I have. So if it's under my repo, then just one way that you can do it.
Cool.
Okay.
I have one of those too. So now what you're doing is you're git cloning this repo, and because it's a really long name, we're renaming it to Learn Functions.
Okay.
So the next step is to go and cd into that function. So you can copy it again, step 2.
Oh, sorry. I should have done that.
That's okay. You can type as well. And then we're going to run the infamous npm install.
Yes. Let's do that. And one thing that you taught me, John, when I first came and worked here was that you can just do this. Believe it or not, I've been developing for years, and I did not know that I could just type I. This works too.
Yeah, and it's nice because if you learn it as install, it makes more sense. It's like, what the heck is that? But after you get to know it for a while, it's nice to know the shortcuts.
So this is going to take just a moment. I'm just checking the chat here.
Yeah, and if you have questions along the way, or there's any questions on how to kind of go through this, let us know. I see here some folks asking for the link to the Learn module. I think Craig has been keeping up with that. If you could paste it in there, Craig, that'd be awesome.
I wonder, just as like a show of hands, can everybody drop into the chat and just say, like, are you on a PC or are you on a Mac? I'm just curious, like, what operating systems are we working with here? What's up, Javier?
I'm using an Atari.
I have both, actually. I have a Mac here, and then I have a PC here to the side, and I sort of move between them depending on if I'm using the Mac or the WSL. Got Macs and Macs, Mac. Where are my PC people at?
Are we supposed to follow along? Yeah, that would be fun. Mac, PC.
You can put it on in the background, and
yeah, if you just want to watch Burke and I kind of code it, that's cool too. But if you want to do it, more power to you. We'd love to know what you're going through, and you can try this.
Well,
can you see the video on another day? Burke, are we going to let people see this after this?
Absolutely. We're going to record this, and you can watch it at your leisure.
Yep, right at the same
Friday night with all your friends.
So, Burke, you have 74 packages looking for funding. Are you going to donate?
Whoa, that's a lot. If I run npm fund, does it just automatically fund all these 74 packages out of I'm not going to run it.
It actually reaches out to your pocket and takes money. So I'm teasing. So we found 0 vulnerabilities, which is good. You got everything installed. If you at home are doing this and it hasn't finished yet, don't worry, it should be finished soon. But effectively, this is just making sure you've got your node modules. So let's go check our next step.
Next, it wants me to run npm run full build.
Yes, and this is a custom script that comes with the program. And this is going to build the Express app and the Angular app on your machine. So go ahead and run that command now. You can copy and paste.
I'm going to clear my screen off, which is Control L, which just clears the screen. And then just run it like this.
You got it. So now you can see that it's doing this command, tsc-p server. That's the TypeScript compiler. So yes, we are using TypeScript on this project. You don't have to. You could have used JavaScript as well.
Do I want to send anonymous data to Google?
I would say no.
No.
I don't like sending anonymous data to anybody personally.
It's 2020. I'm not sending anything to anyone.
All right. So
no, do I have to say yes?
No, I think it's starting that process, hopefully. Okay. So the first step was to compile it with TypeScript. The second step is ng build -- prod, which should be building your Angular app. That Angular app should probably take, is the first time building on your computer, maybe up to a minute. And that's because Angular has a 2-step compiler. Future builds actually will take less time. So if we run this command again, which we will, it'll actually take less time to run.
Go ahead and hide this right there. Uh-oh.
You lost your terminal. There we go.
It's back.
Hey, that's a snazzy looking terminal. What terminal is that?
This is Hyper from the folks over at Vercel or Versal, or I guess that's the only 2 ways to say it. Anyway, it's amazing. I know that Mac has a terminal. I just happen to like this one more.
I believe Visual Studio has a terminal too, right?
It does. Could have done it here. That would have been fine too. But we haven't actually opened the project yet, and I thought it might be a little confusing. But you can actually, and you can clone from Visual Studio too. So you could actually clone a GitHub project, which is nice.
You absolutely can. I really like that. I actually use all that stuff.
I do too. And what's nice about this is when you do this, if you have an HTTPS, which I don't know what's going on GitHub, John, but all the authentication's changed, and I don't get an option for Git remotes anymore. All I have is HTTPS. Are you seeing this too? I mean, SSH. All I see is when I go to clone something, all I see is SSH. I mean, HTTPS, no SSH.
Oh, I do. I see both. I see clone with SSH, and there's a very small link in the upper right for me for using HTTPS.
Okay. So if you clone with HTTPS here, it sets your remotes for you. So it sets your order, which doesn't happen on the CL in the terminal. Added bonus from VS Code. Still running.
Still building.
It's doing bundles for differential loading, which sounds super important. I don't know what that is. Sounds critical.
Yeah, this is not this is not an Angular workshop, so we're not going to worry too much about what Angular is doing there. But in short, the compiling steps, it's building multiple bundles for basically older versions of ECMAScript, newer versions of ECMAScript. And then once it's done, it figures out kind of what the differences are, and then it builds the bundles. So now we have our build, and there's your command prompt.
Okay, we're back.
And that's it. You have built your app. I think the next step would be nice to do, and it's not actually in the Learn module, but let's go ahead and check it out, at least not at this point, is let's open up this folder in VS Code.
Oh, okay. So let me just clear out my terminal here. Oop. Uh-oh. My terminal crashed. All of the hype for hyper, and then it just...
Hey, there's a reason to use the VS Code terminal right there.
Went away. It just went away. Also, I don't know if you know this, but like if you... I figured this out too, but from in here, if you navigate to a folder, what was it called? Learn Functions. You can actually open code from code, which is kind of cool.
Hey, let me show you another trick that I really like. Kill this version of code and go back to the one you were just in.
Okay.
I love it. So I have an alias for this, but what you type here is code space dot space dash R. And that means reuse the version of code that you're in right now.
Oh, look at that.
So it'll reload this code.
Amazing. Free tip. Mind's blown.
This is all sorts of fun stuff. We like it. So basically, we've got our code over on the right-hand side. In this case, yours might be on the left, wherever your sidebar is.
Oh, yeah. I moved mine to the right. Sorry, folks.
Yep. You want to show them why? Because that's a cool tip.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. So let me just open up some code here. I don't know. Source seems like a good place to find code. Maybe this one or this one. Ah, perfect. So the reason why I move it is because, so let's move it back. Toggle sidebar position. So by default, it's here. And one of the things that you do in VS Code a lot is you collapse that sidebar with Command Control B, I think, on Windows. Yeah. You just do this a lot. And if it's on the left, what you'll notice is that when you collapse the sidebar, what happens to the code? It physically jumps around, and you don't realize it, but when it moves, your eye has to move with it, and your context gets reset. Yeah. And so if you move it to the other side on the right, now watch the code. When the sidebar moves, watch the code. What happens?
Nothing. Stays where it is.
Exactly. And so a little bit of getting used to. I'm going to be honest, when you move it over here at first, you're like, that's not right. Something's wrong with the world. But once you get used to it, it's actually, I think, better for your brain, especially if your brain needs all the help it can get, like my brain.
Yeah, and somebody's asking, John Oswald was asking in the chat, what alias did I use for that code reuse window, whatever the dash R stands for? I actually have CR. So I just go to terminal, type CR, and it reloads code right inside where I am. That way I don't have to type code space dash R with the dot.
Nice.
Cool. Well, let's go over to the end of the exercise there.
Okay. Back to the Learn module.
So it said basically for the exercise that it's time to run the code yet. Not quite. We're going to go explore the application, which is next. So I need to go to the next exercise. Yeah,
I'm gonna pick it from up here because it's going to move me further along. But the continue button should work for most people.
Yes. So in here, this exercise, or sorry, this unit is not an exercise. It's basically just going to explain to you, what's happening in the application and what you've got for your app. The Express app itself is going to have these 4 methods: get, post, put, and delete. And they're all going to hit endpoints of API/vacations. The code folder is going to look like this, which we'll go look at with Burke in just a moment. We're going to have routes in our server folder. So servers where the Express app is. Routes are the routes for the post, put, get, and delete. Services folder is where I'm putting the actual data. I'm faking a database call in this one, just so you don't have to set up a database. And vacation service is all the logic that actually gets the data. So this could be like your data access code, for example, in a real application. And then server is the Express server. That's our server TS file. So not a lot there, but I could have done this in one file, but I wanted to break this out to how would an Express API normally look? And that's really the lay of the land there. We're going to be in the vacation service file quite a bit, but we're not going to do that quite yet. The next step is to actually run this application. Ready to go to the next unit?
I am. Locked and loaded. What do you want me to do? Just here in the Learn module, go to the next unit?
Yeah, click the continue button at the bottom of the page. or you
So
can go to the top and go to the next unit.
yeah, I'm gonna do it manually over to unit 4 here.
Okay.
Okay.
So the next step is we're going to run and debug this application. First, we're going to set a breakpoint in the Angular code. So
Okay.
step 1 is to go to this long path, source app vacations component, and locate the function called get vacations.
Okay. So source app vacations component. There it is right there. And,
Yes.
and also you could just command P, control P, and just look for vacations component. That's another way to do it. Maybe a little faster. All right. Now what?
I'm flipping over to the Learn module to get the steps, so I read it exactly. Bear with me.
No problem.
Okay. So after that, you want to set a breakpoint. So show them where to set the breakpoint on a line of code inside of the get vacations function.
Get vacation. You know what? Let's search in here. So I'm going to do command P again, and then let's look for, what can I do here? How do I find functions?
You want to learn a neat trick?
Yeah, show me a neat trick.
Do command, is it command shift O or command O? Try command O.
Command O.
Might be command shift O.
It's command shift O.
There we go.
Command O is open.
Command shift O will open up the object explorer, I believe they call it. So you just type in get vacations and it'll find the function in that file called get vacations.
There it is right there.
Then you just hit enter or select it with your mouse.
The cursor right there. Nice.
Cool.
Okay.
So now you can just click on the gutter, which is the thing to the left of the line numbers.
Here on 95?
Yep, and set a breakpoint. And when it's there, you'll see a darkened red circle as long as your theme didn't change that color.
There it is. I see it.
Amazing. What a great job you've done.
Thank you. I feel accomplished.
So that's just setting the breakpoint. Now we want to set a breakpoint not only in the Angular code, but also in the Express code. So go find the server routes vacation routes file.
Server routes vacation routes here. This one.
Yes. And what we're doing is on line 6, this is the route that's going to get hit on the server in Express for our vacations API. So we want to break inside that function, which will be line 7. So we'll set a breakpoint on line 7 there.
Right there. Okay.
And what we've effectively done, and maybe you can show these side by side real quick and show people how to do that.
Yeah. What's my command for opening a file to the side?
Command 2. Oh, sorry. Command 2 would open a second file pane, then you could drag it, or click it.
Is it option click? What is it? Command, I forget what the, yeah, it's option click. That's it.
So now we've got on the right, you've got the Angular file, which I believe was down around the 90s. There you go. So what's going to happen is when we run this app, it's going to break in the Angular file first, because right when it's about to get the vacations, and that line 95 on the right is going to call the API in the Express app, which is on the left, and should break on line 7.
Okay. So this one breaks first because this is the client side.
Yes.
This one breaks second because this is the server side. So actually,
Yes.
we should move these things around.
Yeah, maybe that makes more sense, left to right. There you go.
This first, this second. Okay. So what do I do?
Before we run the actual debugger, there's something really important to look at. And I'm going through the Learn module here. And that's to open the proxy.conf JSON file.
Okay.
So you could also go scroll for this, or again, you could do Command P to look for it. But it's in the root of the app on the bottom.
Also, once you're in the sidebar here, I think you can just start typing. Yeah. And that'll do it too.
Yep. So what this file is let's think about what's happening in the app. We've got the Angular app that needs to talk to the Express app. They're both running on different ports. Now, anybody who's done web programming knows that when you run an app on 2 different ports and you try to communicate between them from a browser, like Angular in the browser trying to talk to Express in an API, you end up hitting something called CORS.
You get denied.
Yes. So
yeah,
we have to basically allow this cross origin to work, this request. So in the Angular app, we're basically going to tell it, when you go to the API, I want you to allow going to this particular port. It's a proxy to the other port.
And is this an Angular specific thing?
This is an Angular specific file. With React, if you use React, you would actually set this inside the package JSON file. There's a proxy setting in there.
So what about how does Vue handle this? Do you know?
Vue does it in the Vue config file.
Okay.
So Vue and Angular have their own file. React does it in the package JSON, and Svelte, it depends if you're using Webpack or you're using Rollup and how you actually set the proxy in that case.
Gotcha. So this is how the front end, you locally get the front end to talk to the back end when they're running on separate ports.
Yes, in development mode.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now you notice it says when you go to API, you're actually going to hit port 7070. Now the Angular app is running on port 4200.
Is it running?
Not yet. It will be running. Yes, sorry. The Angular app will be running on 4200 and the Express app will run on 7070. It's just the number I happen to pick. So what we want to do is we want to say, hey, Angular on port 4200, when you see a call that goes to API, go reroute that to port 7070 for me. And secure false means that we're not running HTTPS because we're local right now. The reason we point this out, there's nothing to change in this file. The reason we point this out is when we switch to serverless, we're going to change that port to a different port so we can hit a different application.
Networking, man.
Yep.
Always tricky.
Okay, so that was just a little bit of inside the baseball here. The next step is we're actually going to run both applications and debug them. So whether you're on a Mac or Windows, you can open up the command palette now. And the key that will open it on both of those is F1. On a Mac, it's Command-Shift-P. And then you're going to type in, what's the command to go to the debugger? View, show, run, and debug. So you'll type in view, show, run, and debug, or as much as you need. Then select that.
Or Shift-Command-D, keyboard shortcut.
Yep.
All right, this is it.
Now, we're in the debugging panel, I guess you call it, over on the right-hand side in the sidebar, or the left for some of you folks. Could you stretch it out a little so they can see what's written at the very top? Notice it says launch Angular. We don't just want to run Angular. We want to run something that says debug express in Angular. What we've gotten here, yeah, click on that. What we've got is a debugging configuration that's already built into this project, and you can go check it out if you like. It's going to debug both Angular and Express at the same time. So now all we have to do is either hit F5 or hit the green button, which is probably easiest.
I'll hit the green button. I'm an old Visual Studio person at heart, you know. I like that green button. Makes me feel like I'm doing things right. Uh-oh. I got task errors, John.
Yeah, and you may see this. This occasionally shows up. As long as it's building, don't worry yet. But you can go ahead and click on Show Output if you're curious. And I think it says here the task will be ignored. That is an error message that occasionally appears. I'm not exactly sure what's happening there. It might be because we don't have a functions app yet, but there's actually a function debugging configuration in our project. So maybe flip back to the terminal now. We can watch it building. This is kind of like watching grass grow right there.
2 terminals going?
Yes, there are 2 terminals. One is building the Angular application. And then once the Angular app is built, it should launch a browser.
Whoa.
And you hit a breakpoint.
I did, but it's running in a browser.
Yes.
But it's breaking in Visual Studio Code.
So let's flip over to your browser. And can you zoom in on that? Because it's kind of tiny for me. So this application there, it's going off to the vacations page. None of the vacations are showing up because it hit the breakpoint that Burke showed. So it launched I think it launched Chrome for you.
It did?
Yep. So let's go back into your Visual Studio Code.
Okay.
If things are working, you should be able to then hit the run button at the top.
Here, this one?
Yep, that one there will continue the running. So we can see it hit the Angular app. Now you're debugging the Express application.
I'm just going to close this, make more room. So, okay, so this is on the Express side.
Yep.
Yeah, there's the request and response. Okay.
Now we can go a little bit off script if you like, just for a moment.
Okay.
Want to try it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So go over to your File Explorer inside of Visual Studio in the sidebar, Visual Studio Code. And now click on the vacation.service.ts file.
This one here?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you might have guessed, we're actually going to call this function on line 5, which is called get vacations, or 4.
Right.
Yeah. So set another breakpoint on line 6.
Okay.
Now, go ahead and hit continue again. It should call right to this file.
Yeah, it does. There it is.
And now if you click the button to the right of that triangle, the continue button, that's the step over button. So we're going to execute line 6 to go to line 7. And now if you hover over the vacations constant, you should see all the vacation planning that Burke has made.
Yeah, I'm going to go to a
So we're just showing you how you can set breakpoints either before the app is running or after the app is running. And you can walk through both your client and your server app, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, on the client one, that's really interesting. You rarely see that. Usually people are doing that in the dev tools, but good to know that's possible.
Okay, so inside the Learn module, the next step is effectively to unpause the execution, which is press F5 or click the continue button again.
Okay.
Now your app is running. You should be able to go see it in Chrome.
Oh, yeah. There's my
getaways. Now, if you hit the refresh button on that page, it would rerun through the breakpoints again, but let's not go there.
There's no getaways. This is a cruel joke.
We can all go on staycations. We should have renamed the app Staycations.
Someday we're going back to these places.
Well, if you lived on a glacier, I guess you could have an excursion.
That's true.
All right, so the next step is to go back to VS Code, and we want to stop the debuggers. This is just a tip from experience from Burke and I. When you've got debuggers running, it's best to shut them down until you need them again. You'll notice before you click on the red square that he's got at the top of the screen, on the right of that, there's a pull-down box. And if you open that up, you'll see there's 2 different debugging scenarios. So because there's 2 of those, Burke, you're going to have to click that red square twice to close both of them.
Okay, here's once, and here's twice.
Boom. And now your debuggers have stopped, and the app is no longer running.
Does it stop in the terminal too?
It doesn't always stop in the terminal, so that's a good thing to check. And if it is, you can just go down there and Control-C it, or you can hit the little trash can icon that you see in your terminal there on the...
So just right here? I could just do this? Okay. All right. So it doesn't look like anything's running anymore.
Yes. Cool. So Burke, let's flip back over to the Learn module.
Okay.
You're doing great. And we've done all these steps. We looked at the proxy. We've debugged both applications. Then we stopped the debuggers.
Oh, we've done all this. Sweet.
We did it all. So now we're going to go on to Unit 5.
Time to get into Azure Functions. Let's take a minute here and pause and see how things are going here. Baljit's having some trouble, but looks like Craig is on it, as Craig does. Hey, what's up, Anthony Chu? Azure Functions PM, y'all, in the house.
Yeah, ask away all the questions. I've seen some questions from some folks like Oliver Gomez about MS, Microsoft using different frameworks outside of Microsoft. I've seen it all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. I've seen React. I've seen Angular. I've seen Vue. I've seen a lot of jQuery.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit. Anybody having any questions that we need some help with, or Craig, or have you got it 100% under control? I see some thumbs up. That's actually a good sign there. Thank you, Eric. If you've got, if you're doing well, just put your thumbs up inside the chat, and hopefully that'll work out for you.
If you're having trouble, ping Craig.
Yep.
Make him earn his money here. He's not getting paid anything for this.
Nope, not at all. All right, so it looks like we're okay. Why don't we move on to the next unit then, Burke?
Okay, so that's analyze the shift. So again, I'm gonna go to the top. There we go.
Now, so far we've got the application running with Node and Express. Now we're going to talk about what do we need to do to move from Express to serverless. So let's kind of just scroll through this here. The key are those 3 bullets up top that you need to know. First is you have an Express server, which is mostly in this server TS file. And then your routes are in the routes folder, as we saw. And then the third thing is where is all your data access logic? That's in the vacation service where we set the final breakpoint.
Okay.
Those are the 3 areas we're going to keep coming back to. There's a synopsis now of the steps of what you're going to need to do to move from Express to Functions. We're about to do this together, but just quickly, we're going to create a Functions app. we're going to create a function for the routes endpoint. Basically, we're going to create a function to get the vacations. Then we're going to set the method for that to be get, because that's a get, not a post. And then we're going to name the routes endpoint. So you can control what your URL looks like. Like it'll be API/vacations. Then we're going to literally copy and paste from our Node Express app over to our Functions app. We're going to take the exact same code that does our data access from Express and move it over to the Functions folder. Then we're going to refactor 2 pieces of code in there, and Burke's your uncle. It's going to work at that point.
I got to be honest, it's hard for me to follow this because I don't know. This is conceptual for me at this point. I think I need to do it so I can see what all this is.
Yeah, it's exactly it. And then you'll learn this about the Learn modules, folks, as you go through these, is that the units are broken down into conceptuals and exercises. This is the conceptually, what are you about to do? But if you're like me and Burke, it's easier once you're actually doing it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is the exercise.
Yeah, I'm definitely more hands-on. I really need to do it in order to learn it. Like if you explain it to me, I won't be able to understand it until I actually do it myself.
I'm with you. I'm extremely visual or hands-on. If I'm not doing it, I'm not learning it. So it's kind of the point of this, isn't it?
Totally. Yeah. And I do like that about the Learn modules is that there's like concept exercise. And I find myself blowing through to the exercises and then going back and reading the concepts, which make a lot more sense.
So just to show everybody what's happening, Burke, can you flip back over to your Learn module and show them that we're on Unit 6?
Yes. Unit 6, which is analyze the shift. We're analyzing.
That's 5. So you're going to go to the one right after this.
Oh, going to the next one.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Create your Azure Functions application.
And I'll kind of walk you through these steps so you can watch Burke going through it. So now once you're on Unit 6, that's what you're going to go through. And I'll walk you through those steps so we can flip back to your code.
Okay.
So in VS Code, open the command palette.
Okay. That's F1.
And then type something along the lines of Azure Functions create new project. And you don't have to type the whole thing out.
Create new project. I don't see it yet. Create new project. There it is.
Yes. Yeah, there's quite a bit of words in there, so you got to filter it down. Yep, create new project. Let's do that. Now, it's going to ask you if you want to browse to find a folder. We want to browse. Why?
Right.
Because we're going to put it in a subfolder.
Okay.
Now, we can't probably read what Burke's got going on up there, but what we want to do is we want to create a folder in there called Functions.
So new folder.
Yep, click the new folder, create a folder called Functions. And it doesn't have to be called Functions, but if you want to follow along and exactly, that's the way to go. And then select that Functions folder and hit up the button. Now we're going to use TypeScript, so go ahead and choose TypeScript for your new project.
Okay.
And then when you're prompted to create a new function, we're going to choose skip for now, which is the second option. We're not actually going to create a function yet. We just want to create the project.
And I noticed that it's warning me about updating my functions core tools. Anthony, did y'all release a version of core tools this morning? Gosh,
They must have, because you did this last night.
No one checked when they release software at Microsoft.
So let's just not do that right now. We'll click the X on the updating your core tools. And it finished creating the project. Great. So you should have a functions folder showing up in your sidebar in your Explorer in VS Code.
Let's see.
You can probably collapse the server folder. Yeah.
Yep, there it is.
Cool. And there should be a little bit of stuff in there right now. Not much. That's basically the basic function stuff.
Yeah.
So we don't have a function yet, but we have a function app. So next, we're going to go on to the next unit, Unit 7. And I'll walk you through this.
Do you want me to go back to Learn module or stay here?
Just stay there. And folks, make sure you move on to Unit 7 at this point. Unit 7 is creating a function. So you might remember, Burke, that we've got 4 endpoints. Get, post, put, and delete.
Okay.
And just to show folks where those are, if you go over to the server folder in Express,
the server folder,
there's a routes file called vacation routes. And inside there, you'll see get, post, put, delete.
Breakpoint's still there.
Yeah. Now we're going to basically go create those same things over in Azure Functions.
Okay.
So close that file.
Okay.
Now inside of VS Code, open up your command palette.
All right.
What button is the command palette, folks, in the chat? Hint,
Forgot about
F1. So yep, we hit F1. Now we're going to type in Azure Functions create function.
I'm just going to type create. Look at that. Boom.
There you go. Okay, so select that, and we're going to choose a trigger called HTTP trigger. There's lots of kinds of triggers, and I don't think we're going to explain them all here, but HTTP is what we're trying to do because we want to make an HTTP call. Now, the name of this trigger, we're going to call it vacations-get. And the reason we're doing that is we're going to have 4 of these: a vacations get, a post, a put, and a delete. So we're going to name it very clearly in this case. And go ahead and hit enter. And we're going to use anonymous authentication for now, but obviously you can set up authentication levels later if you'd like. And there's your basic function.
This is an index.ts inside of a vacations get folder. So this is my function.
Yep, the index.ts is your function file. Now close that file for a minute. We're going to go look at a different file that got created for you. So 2 files got created: functions.json and index.ts. Let's go look at functions.json.
What's this file?
That is a sample data file, which we're not going to use. And I wish it didn't exist. So you can delete it actually if you'd like.
Let's just delete it. I think it's there just to show you that you can add other files in this folder.
So let's go into function.json. Now, this is basically the metadata or your configuration for what is my function doing. Notice the auth level is anonymous because that's what you chose. The type is HTTP trigger because that's what you chose. So what we want to do is we only want this function to work for get. It's getting vacations. So we're going to remove posts on line 10 from the methods.
But why? Why does it hurt to have post in there?
You know, it won't hurt as long as all you're doing is a get in this case, but we're going to create a different function just for a post that'll have different logic. So we don't want the post getting routed to this function here. We only want the get getting to this one.
Okay. So take this out, and then this function is only going to respond to a get.
Yes. Now, if you make a get request to vacations-get, it'll run this function. Now,
I don't understand why the post is harmful, but I'll trust you that that's coming later.
It will be coming later when we create that a little bit more. It won't harm at this point, but right now you've got a method for get. Now, the next step is go to the bindings section.
Bindings?
Which is on line 2. Yep.
Okay.
And inside of there, there's a rec property.
A rec property? Oh, you mean to add a rec property?
So right where the name is, what we need to do is we need to add the route.
Okay.
Bear with me. I'm going to go back to I'm flipping back to the learn module here so I can see it running. And we're going to open up the function. There we go. So right below the rec or the methods, either way, basically hit enter after the methods if you'd like, or after rec.
Okay.
Now you added a comma, that's fine too. So if you did it after rec, you wouldn't need the comma because it was already there. I think that's what the learn module is telling us.
Oh, it tells us to put it after rec?
Yeah. Which
let's do that. So just enter here. Okay.
Yep. Now we're going to add an entry here for route. So inside of quotes, you want to put route.
Oh, it's already there.
Yep. We got IntelliSense.
Okay.
And then we're going to say, make this route be vacations. So what are we doing here? Right now, if you show the, it's actually on line 19. We'd have to open it up. Good. So on line 19, notice how it says vacations-get is the name of the folder.
Yeah.
By convention, the name of the folder is the API URL. So to hit this from Angular, you would type API/vacations-get. We don't want people to type that. We want them to type API/vacations.
Why not? Like, what's wrong with just having them type this? Why is that so bad?
Nothing wrong, but it's more conventional with REST and HTTP to not put the method in the URL itself. Instead, we pass the method as part of the body of the HTTP call.
Okay, so this becomes the URL instead of, so basically we're just dropping the -get here.
Yes, we're changing the convention to say, look, I'm making the folder be this thing, but I want the API to actually just be vacations.
I gotcha. Somebody did ask, they were like, why would you ever want get and post in the same function then? Like, why is it giving you both if you're just going to delete one?
I've seen this. It's a really good question. Was that Eric?
Yeah, that was Eric.
Eric Brandy. Thanks for asking that, Eric. Yeah, that's really more of just a convention. There's a lot of times that you can run a get and a post. Sometimes for security, you can do that in some cases. If you're going to change something in a database, get data, but also change it, a post is probably technically more correct. And look, there you go. Craig's actually got some good answers on that too inside the chat as well.
Yep, Craig's the guy who knows.
Yep. By the way, Craig is the man who writes all of the docs for the functions team. So,
so if he says it, it's literally gospel.
It's got to be true. And if he writes something wrong in the docs, they change the product to do what Craig says. So.
That's right. Docs what we're doing.
So what's cool here is we're learning that we can change. There's a bunch of defaults with functions, but we can change those defaults. We got rid of the post and we changed the route to just be vacations.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to move down a little bit, and our functions code should look exactly like Burke's does. If you have prettier or something, maybe your methods get turned into one line. Don't worry about that, though. Hey, guess what, Burke?
Ooh, I'm afraid.
We just finished another unit in an exercise.
Yes. Sweet. Moving right along. Look at my XP. Look at this. Can I use this to like buy things in Overwatch? What's this good for?
Yeah, you get extra points. You get experience points every time you go on to another unit. So go ahead and click the next button, Burke, until you get to Unit 8.
You know what they should make it do is like give you free Xbox credit or something. Like that would be like finish a learn module, get Xbox. Whoa, get Xbox credit.
Or a free Xbox for every unit you get.
Down for that. Whoa, I just zoomed way out.
That was a big zoom.
Yeah, I don't know. I did not do that. So we did this. We just did create function, right?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're shift the services to Azure Functions.
Yes.
Yeah, because I recognize all this here. Okay.
And a quick call out here because Craig's correcting me and he's right. Craig isn't the only one working on the functions docs, but he's one of the main people. And Glenn Gailey is also responsible for quite a few of the functions docs.
I thought Craig wrote all the docs. I thought he was literally not just the functions docs, but like literally every doc we have. Is that's false?
That is false.
Okay. Good to know.
And I like the good joke out there from our folks. Christopher Hamilton says, so Microsoft practice CDDD, which is Craig's docs driven development. I like that.
On a shirt. Yeah. Do you do TDD? No, I do not. I do Craig's docs driven development.
Oh my. All right. So we're on Unit 8, and on Unit 8, now basically we created the Azure Function app. We created an Azure function for get. Now we're going to shift the code from Express to Azure Functions. So what we're seeing in exercise 8 is basically at the top of that code, it's telling us, scroll up just a little bit. There's two things we're going to change. Scroll higher if you can, Burke.
Oh,
you're going lower.
Too low. So sorry.
Yeah. There, that table that's right there. So that table that's right there, there's two changes you're going to make. In the code that's in Express, everywhere we refer to Express, we're instead going to refer to Azure Functions. Makes sense, right?
Yeah. There's no Express.
And then in Express, everywhere they refer to rec and res for request and response, we're actually going to change that code to do context rec and context response, because that's how you actually get to the request and response in Azure Functions. So it's a variable name change.
I gotcha. So these two things don't exist. Why doesn't my Express code just work? Why do I have to make these changes?
It's a good question. And we see the code. Ask me that again, and I'll show you why, because it'll become more apparent.
Okay.
All right. So scrolling down a little bit, and if you like, you can flip back over to your code. You can open Visual Studio Code. And then copy the server/services folder.
This one.
Yep. So just go right to the services folder, choose copy, and then go to the functions folder, select it, and paste. So we literally did copy pasta here. Now go ahead and open up the function services folder, and you should see a couple files. Just to explore them, the data, if you want to click on it, just shows the data. We're faking, mocking the data at this point, so we don't have to actually connect the database.
Fake vacations, no one can go on.
Yep. And then vacation service is where our vacations code actually lives. So let's click on that one. Now here you can see the code for Express that we use, and you can hide the sidebar now if you'd like to go full screen on it. Or
can do.
Yeah. So scroll to the very top, It's the thing that you did this and I do it too. A lot of people in Node or in JavaScript, we immediately scroll past the import statements because we're like, we don't want to look at that stuff.
It's boring. Yeah, includes. Who cares?
But there's something really, really important at the top up there, and that's that import line. Do me a favor, Burke, and hit, go ahead and copy and paste that line. Make 2 of it, and then comment out the first one. Just to show where we came from, we were going to express. Instead of express, you want to change the word express on line 2 to @Azure/functions.
At Azure. Oh, there it is. Just like this?
Yep, and it should auto pre-fill. Sometimes they don't, right? But there you go.
Why is it giving me a squiggly? Cannot find module. Why is this happening?
It's not yet installed on your machine because we created the app, but when we run it, it will actually install those for you.
Oh, okay. So there's an npm install that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
We're referencing a module that isn't installed, but it's going to be installed.
Yes. When we run it.
When we run it. Okay.
Now, the second piece is we don't have request and response coming out of there. We do have an object called context. So change request and response to get context.
Inside of the brackets like this?
Yeah. Okay. So effectively change line 1 to look like line 2. Instead of going to express, we're going to functions, and we're getting this thing called context. Now, that's going to give you a bunch of red squigglies everywhere in your file.
Yeah, this file's really mad at the moment.
It's very, very unhappy with you, Burke.
Looks like a Word document.
Yep, and Eric in the chat saying forgot for an NPMI. Yeah, we could actually do that manually, or when we run it, it'll just work. So kind of up to you on when you get there. So the second step, and this now we're in step 4 for those of you following along in the Unit 8, is we're going to find every instance of what's on line 5 where it says rec::request, res::response.
Here.
Yep.
So I'm just going to highlight it. And it's highlighting down here as I highlight up here.
It sees all those matches. VS Code's pretty smart, man.
Why is it doing that? Oh, and it highlighted it down here. So why is that happening?
So every time it finds a corresponding match, it highlights it in a different color. But you just to make sure everybody understands, you just highlighted, you selected with shift,
I just
right?
Selected the line, and did it select these lines down here too?
It didn't actually select them yet. It's just finding them for you, locating them. Okay. So the next step is we actually want to change those parameters to something else. Okay. And to do that, so we can do it in one shot, here's a really cool trick, and it's called using the multi-cursor. So Burke, can you automatically select all of those lines and show people how to do that?
I can. I believe you do Command-Shift-L or Control-Shift-L, and that actually adds a cursor to every single highlighted instance. You can see them all blinking.
Yeah, and now if you just go hit the back arrow twice, you'll see both those lines. Yep, he deleted the whole thing out of there, which is fine because we wanted to delete those. And now we're going to replace that with, go ahead and type in open curly brace, rec, R-E-Q, because that's the parameter that's read on line 8 and 10 and so on and so forth, comma, res for response. So now we're getting rec and res out of there. Now use the right arrow to go to the right side of that curly brace and do colon, because the type of this in TypeScript is context. Boom. Now you can save your file. And to get out of the multi-cursor mode, hit the escape key, everybody. Now, do you have to use the multi-cursor to do this, Burke?
No.
No. But you could go and type that 4 times if you really wanted to.
Yeah. What is this syntax, John? This is so weird. What is this?
It's a good question. So let's break it down from right to left. On the right-hand side is the type. We're saying that this thing that we're using is of context. That's the type. And you can see we got that on line 2. Inside of context, there's an object called rec and an object called res. So what we're saying is we don't want everything else that's inside of context. We just want the request and response. So we're using something called destructuring to pull out or extract just the rec and res variables so we can use them. And that's what's on the left-hand side.
So would it be fair to say that what we're saying here is give me from this object the rec and res objects and pass those into this function?
Yes. And notice by just changing that top line, we no longer have to worry about line 8 where it says res.status, because we now have res inside of that function.
Yeah, everything else just kind of is still working.
Yep.
No more squigglies. Just the one up here from the missing npm install.
Yes. So we basically just refactored this function. Now, could you open up a side-by-side file? Show the old vacation service that was an express.
Yeah, let's see here. Where is that thing? Down here?
It's in the server, services, vacation service.
I'm going to
Now, if you put them side by side, and you can probably delete line 1 at the top of the one on the left now.
Okay.
The only changes are line 1, and then you can see the code is exactly the same from left to right, other than the parameter signature for each of the functions.
Yeah, that versus the old give me the rec and the res, which are top level objects. But over here, they're inside of context, so we have to pull them out. And context is given to us by Azure Functions, whereas request and response is given to us by Express. But Express doesn't exist here anymore, and that's the migration.
Yes. Now, just to show, if you want to look at the side by side again, there's a really cool trick you can do in VS Code, and Burke and I love our VS Code tips. And either one of those files, Burke, could you open up the command palette real quick and choose fold all?
Sure.
So watch what happens when you do fold all. Fold all has a keystroke command too. When he clicks on that, it's going to collapse to just the function signatures. Now do it on the right-hand side as well.
I think
this is a nice way to compare code.
O, let's try that. Command K, Command O.
I think it's Command K, Command 0, actually.
0. I got it.
Which is why I never use that.
So much alike. All right.
So what we did now is we can see they both have 55 lines of code. We can see the only thing that's different is the signature. It's just a nice way to kind of show side by side what's actually happening in there.
I like it. Okay.
Cool. So once you have that, the rest of that unit's mostly showing you, you know, what your code looks like. Basically was what we just did side by side. There's one last thing we have to do to make this work. We have to change the function to point to this vacation service. So remember that index.ts file that I told you we'd get to in a few minutes?
Oh, this one, it would be here in the get.
Yep. Inside your get, you've got an index.ts. That index.ts, I mean, that's the default, like what you get out of the box. So what is that doing?
It does.
Do we care?
Looks like it just echoes out a hello, like some text. It's like a hello world.
Yeah, that's totally not going to help our app at all. So what we're going to do instead is go back to your Learn module, Burke, on Unit 8 and scroll towards the bottom, and you'll see a section called Refactor the Route.
So this is what we already did. Refactor the route, okay?
Cool. And hit the copy button on step 2 there.
Okay.
This is the function you're going to replace with. So go replace that index.ts file's contents with what you just copied.
Just wholesale?
Wholesale.
Okay. I'm going to do Command A to get rid of all that.
And then paste. Yep.
Okay.
Now, we just did this to make it easier because it's just easier than refactoring what was there. But this code, if we can zoom in a little, it's just 3 lines of code, lines 4, 5, and 6. Line 4, we've defined an Azure function, and it's got context. There's that context thing again. And then on line 5, it's going to call vacation service get vacations. That's the code that Burke just was using. It's passing context to it. So on the other side, it can pull the context out. And notice it's using the await syntax. That's because it's asynchronous. Because to go get the vacations, it might make an async call to a database and then come back. So you just wrote your first function inside this app.
This is it.
That's it.
Well, I copied and pasted my first function today.
Very, very true. So now there are 3 other endpoints. Do you want to go through creating the 3 other endpoints?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we're going to repeat this.
All right. So we do create function, right?
Yes. Yep. Command palette, create function.
HTTP trigger.
Yep.
And then what's this one called?
Vacations-post.
Post. Okay.
So we'll do the post next. And then you're going to ask that question in a minute about why post and get. We chose anonymous.
Yeah.
Let's go to your function JSON. And on this one, we're going to set the method to just post.
Okay. So we're removing the get. I'm getting this now.
And now again, go ahead.
You're going to want to call this route the same thing.
Absolutely.
I got it. So
So on line
basically,
8.
it's not route. It's not vacation route. I'm getting it. Okay, so what you're doing here is we've got the same route for both of these functions, but it's the HTTP verb that we use to call them that specifies which of those functions gets called instead of doing it by name.
Yes, because it's just, I mean, from an API, it's cleaner to say just API/vacations. And if I'm doing a get, I get it. If I do a post, then I'm posting data.
Roger that. Okay, I've got it. Now, can I also copy and paste code for this function?
Yes, you go back to your unit, scroll down a little bit, and right there, hit that copy button for the post.
All right.
Command A and just paste right over it. There you go. And that's calling the post vacation. Now we don't have to do anything in the services file because we already refactored all 4 of those.
So that's it. Now we're ready for the put. I'm just going to copy this ahead of time. And let's do that again. So create function, HTTP trigger, vacations put.
Yep.
Okay. Anonymous. All right. Oh, it automatically opens the right file here.
It does, which is kind of nice.
Delete all this and paste in from the learn module. And then in the function JSON here, put is not an option.
Right. So now we wanted to use it and we know that put is a method. So actually, I don't know if IntelliSense works here. Let's find out together. What if you delete both those and hit Command space? There you go.
Yeah, you get it.
Good.
There it is. There. Okay.
So we can just choose put. Now this one might get a little tricky. So we want to do vacations again, but it's slightly different. Think about what a put does. A put.
It updates, right?
It updates. Now, how do you remember that? Because I always have to think about it.
I don't, because here's how I remember it. Because put sounds like you're creating something and it's not creating. It's an update. That's literally how I remember that, is that it's backwards from the way that it makes sense in my mind. I don't know why I think about it like that. I wonder if other people in the chat think about it like that too.
You know how I remember all the time? And I do have to think. The put has a U in it, and U stands for update.
Ooh, that's a good way too.
But that doesn't work for post. Like post stands for add, but there is no A in post.
It's like put seems like a create. Like I'm putting an item, I'm creating an item. I don't get it. All right.
Yeah, I don't get it either. But hey, it's what it is.
Do I just set the route to the same thing, vacations?
Almost. So we're going to set it to vacations. But when we do a put, what we're doing is we're updating. To update something, we need to know what identification it is, like what ID is it. So we need to pass in vacation/22, for example. So we need to pass in a parameter right there for the 22. And the way we do that with the syntax is / open curly brace and then ID. ID will be the replacement for that. So anything that's vacation / some value will hit this one for this particular function. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Just because I'm familiar on the Express side, it's similar. I think it's almost the exact same syntax here, where when you have an optional parameter, it's not optional, but basically there's a parameter that's going to come in here and we don't know what it is.
Right. So when somebody calls vacations -- a slash, sorry, with some number, and they happen to use the put verb, this particular function will activate.
And then we can reference this ID variable inside of the function.
Yes, and now you already pasted the code, I think, but let's go over to the services, vacation services file, and go look at the put function. We can expand that. Now you'll see ID on line 30. Right there, we're going into the request object, into the parameters, and looking for .id. And .id is exactly what Burke named that identifier.
Okay, so this, hold on, let me get back to, I've got too many files open. This, where is it? So this ID right here,
yes,
is available off of params.
Yes.
Got it. And then it looks like the rest of the stuff is being passed as on the body, like it's the body of the request.
Right. Assuming when you make your put or your post that you're going to pass in, like, who that customer or vacation or whatever you're passing is. Okay,
I think I'm good. We just have one more then. We need the delete.
Yes.
Close all these. Let's close all.
While you're starting to delete, answer a question here. Eric's asking, what's the direction thingy? Input and output. And I believe Craig is starting to answer that one in there now too. There's actually a doc on this that I was reading about. But these are inputs. So we want them to be part of the request. So they're going into the function. So that's why we're using inputs in this case. So you create your delete function. You pasted it, it looks like.
And I'm just blowing through this now. Now I'm a pro. I've done this so many times.
And now you've got your route. And what's that one going to be?
It's going to be the same thing. I saw it when I copied and pasted.
You cheated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, with a delete, you don't want to delete every vacation. You just want to delete one. So we pass in an ID.
All right. That was a lot of work. I've got 4 functions: delete, get, post, put, and I've got this like shared service thing here as well.
Yes. Now, notice that we have these 4 folders for the functions: delete, get, post, and put. You don't have to design your APIs this way, but I just wanted to be explicit in this case. And this is why we renamed the routes, because I wanted 4 different folders, one for each of my functions.
Yeah, and that's typically I've seen this done in functions projects, is that people give their functions descriptive names, and then they focus on making them RESTful inside. But as a developer, it's easier to come back and be like, okay, where is the create happening? Well, assuming you can remember that post equals create, then you know that it's in this folder here, instead of having to look at the REST names, which are great for consuming APIs, but not as good for being a descriptive developer.
Now, if you could jump back into the services vacation service file one more time. There's a couple of questions have come up, and I wanted to try to get some of these out for the chat. And visually, it's easier. For example, let's say we've got the put right there. Can you expand the try and the catch on that put?
Show enough.
So Burke and I tried to not just do the happy path. What does that mean? Every time you see a demo somewhere, you're seeing people only show you when it works great, this is what code is. Technically, you don't need this try catch if it always works. But I don't know whose code always works. So not mine. So what's happening here? And the question was, how do you maybe do bad request or other errors? On line 36, if something goes wrong, what's going to happen is it's going to jump down to line 39 inside the catch statements. And in this case, we're not doing anything fancy. We're just returning a status of 500 for server error, and we're sending back the actual error message. But you could customize this if you want. You could send back any message you'd like to the client. So this is how you do that, and this is the structure. You would just change line 39 if you want to make a different error message based upon what happened.
Is this a string?
I believe the error is a string in that case, yes.
Okay, so we could do something like, I don't know, this, just because we can.
With interpol or what's it called? Translation?
Sad.
Template strings. There we go. I couldn't think of the word.
Something like that. I guess it's not.
You're doing, yeah, that's wrong language.
What am I doing? Oh, no, that should work. This is TypeScript.
You would put error inside the curly braces.
Oh, I did it the other way.
Yeah.
Okay. I did it wrong.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Sorry, your font's small on my screen.
There we go. There we go. I got it right this time.
You could do whatever you want after there.
Emojis, man. We can have emojis in our...
Hey, why not? Emojify the whole thing.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And there's a good question there. Craig Shoemaker's answering already, but I want to call this out. It's really important. Herman Blanco was asking about guard logic, basically. What if you got bad inputs, etc.? You could write guard logic inside your code to make sure that you actually have an ID. For example, in that code there, I'm assuming that the ID that Burke got on line 30 is a good ID. Like it's actually like 22 or something. But what if it's not? Line 36 would probably fail. So it probably makes sense to actually validate your input before you actually run your code. So again, you could do that inside the try statement. Okay, Burke, going back to your learn module now.
Yes.
Scroll to the bottom. And that's the longest unit, by the way, because you do that 4 times. We have just completed writing the functions. So you can click continue.
All right. Going on to the next step. Whoa, that is long.
And Ashish, I think you get the gold star of the day. He's saying you should use emojis as passwords. I like that idea.
Is
Yes,
that
and Tomas, yes, template literals or template strings. I just couldn't think of the word before. Thank you.
I want to know if using emojis as password really works. I'm waiting for an answer. It's going to take him a minute because there's a delay here. Is that even a good idea? I bet Troy Hunt's got an article about why you should not use emojis as passwords. I can't wait to read it.
All right, so let's go. We're on unit 8. Now you're moving to unit 9, right?
Yes.
Okay, so basically this is the review. Have you done everything you're supposed to do? We've already kind of looked at this stuff. You should have your 4 folders. Your folder structure should look like the ASCII art that we have there on the page. We're going to assume that it does because Burke is perfect. And then we're going to hit continue.
It's hard to be me. All right, let's see here. Debug.
All right, so on unit 10, right?
Yeah.
So this is very similar to what we did before. We're going to first set a breakpoint in the Azure Functions code. We should already have the one in the Angular app, by the way, which is fine to keep. So let's go to the vacation service file inside of VS Code.
And it wants get, and again, Command-Shift-O, get vacations. That's what we're looking for, right?
And by the way, here's another tip. Do Command-Shift-O and then type colon.
Oh,
this will sort it by functions and properties.
Nice. So here's my 4. To go.
Yep.
I'm all folded up here, man. I got to unfold.
Yeah. I think there's an unfold all. I hope. All right. So in the vacations, you want to set a breakpoint to the left of the try or to the left of the constant, whatever makes you happy.
Okay. We'll put it right there.
Now we've got a breakpoint in there. And again, we've got a launch. It's called a launch config. And if you want to show everybody where that is real quick, Burke, where our debug configurations are. He's going inside of VS Code, then launch JSON. This is where all the debugging configurations are created. When you create a functions app, don't worry, it actually creates the functions debugging syntax for you in here, so you don't have to worry about it. But this one here, I also added in one for Angular. And then if you scroll down just a bit, you'll see something called, keep going, debug functions and Angular. This is called a compound debugger. And what we're going to do is we're going to call on line 41, when we say debug functions in Angular, it's actually going to call 2 debugging scenarios, attach to function and launch Angular, which are scrolling up. You'll see both of those.
Attach to functions. And
yep, line 24.
Launch Angular is up here.
And on line 5. Yep.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to be running. And you can close this file. You don't have to change anything here. It's just nice to kind of see this.
Yeah,
all right.
Things are tricky.
Yeah, they can get tricky. So it's nice that the functions one just gives it to you. Now, there's one code change we need to do. Remember, Burke, when we ran this project originally, we were running Angular against Express. And the way Angular knows to go to Express, because it's running a different port, Angular's on 4200, Express is on 7070. We had that file.
Right. We were in some proxy file. What was the name of that thing?
Proxy.conf.json.
This. That's in the functions file. Something else.
It's the one above it.
This one here. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
So notice here it's saying, hey, this is an Angular file. It's saying, Angular, go talk to Express on 7070. What we want to do is we're going to change that to say, don't go to Express, go to functions, which happens to be port 7071.
Oh, just one up.
Now you can guess why I created Express on 7070. It's only one number away. All right. So we now told them that the Angular app will no longer talk to Express. Now it'll talk to functions.
All right. So I'm assuming now we want to do debug functions and Angular, which is
yes
versus this one. So this is the new one.
Yep. And select it.
Let me check my breakpoints before I do that, just to see, because I can't remember. So there's still one in the front end. Is that okay?
Yeah. And here's a neat trick. Click on the file name right there in the middle of that, like on the dot or something. Yeah. Click on that. It'll open the file. Now do Command 2 or open up a second window, split pane.
With which one?
Right up at the top there's that icon. Yep, that icon. Now you have 2 files. Now click on the vacation service in the debugger. No, actually didn't need to do the second one. Sorry. So now we're seeing them side by side. I like to show this side by side because now we can see again client and server.
Yep. So it's going to hit this one, then it's going to hit this one. And this is the Azure Functions with an error.
Yes.
Uninstalled node package. I can't
Which,
wait.
if you're like me and Burke, it's bothering both of us. That's great.
It's driving me crazy. I'm having a real
All right. Now that you've selected the debugger to be debug functions in Angular, let's go back to that debugger panel.
Okay, which is
And
here.
we'll hit the F5 button or the green triangle.
Make sure I have the right one selected. Debug functions in Angular. And
now it's going to build both. You should see two tasks opening up.
I see task in this looks like the functions one. And then there's this one.
That's the Angular one.
This is Angular. And then this one, which is nothing.
Just one you already had, I guess. Yeah.
That one. So we got two.
You're brave hitting that trash can there.
I thought about it. Are you sure you want to do that right now? That could be bad, but I'm still alive.
So we have two terminals. We have one terminal with two different tasks running. One for Angular and one for I totally lost my train of thought. Azure Functions.
Azure Functions is up. It's done. Oh yeah, and here's the URLs.
Hey, and while it's building Angular, go ahead and click on the link for the get.
Can I do that? Can I just click here and
Command click?
Oh, and it hit the breakpoint.
It hit your breakpoint. So go ahead and hit
the front end app hit this one in the back.
So go ahead and hit the blue triangle to get it off the breakpoints. And then go back to your browser now, because it looked like there's the API that you called. And then if you go to the browser that opened up, go ahead and hit refresh on that browser, just so people can see exactly what's happening there. So you refresh.
Hits the breakpoint, which is
and that's your Angular app.
We're going to continue. Now it's on the function side.
And you can step over that one line of code by hitting the arrow with the dot. Yep. There's your vacations, Burke. And you can hit the arrow button again.
Boom. There
Sweet.
we are.
And then you stop your debuggers and kill your tasks when you're done.
Fully serverless.
Folks, did you have any struggles with those? Any questions in the chat about this?
Everybody
I like this. Ashish, all this clutter makes you want to go Zen mode, Control K, Control Z. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, we're with you. I've also got the font on my side is, each letter is about as big as my head. So
yes. Yeah, Burke is zooming in quite a bit so everybody can see it. So
yeah, good for screen sharing, not so great for actual coding.
All right, so let's flip back to the units.
Okay.
Now it's time for a quiz, Burke. Let's see what you learned, everybody.
All right, here we go. Let's see if I can do this. How would you change the route endpoint for a function in a folder named vacations get to vacations? Change the route endpoint. The route property in the bindings array rec object. The route property in the bindings array rec object. The methods property in the bindings array rec object. The auth level, that's not it.
Nope.
Or the redirect. This part here is the rec object. That's throwing me off. Let me go back to my functions and check on it.
Yeah. Everybody, let's try to follow along here. If you know which the answer is, A, B, C, or D, go ahead and type it into the chat. Which one do you think Burke should do? And I'll give you a hint. He was correct in that auth level is not the correct thing to do here. So where do you change the route endpoint's name to be vacations?
Is this the rec object? It's got to be. So name is rec. So yeah,
I think that's worded funny. So I think it means below the rec object.
I'm going with route property.
Route property.
Yeah, I'm going with A.
All right. Damien says A. Eric says A. Anybody think Burke is wrong? We got a lot of A's. So
yeah, it says A. Yeah, I agree. The only one it could be is B, but that's not the endpoint. That's the method. That's the verb. So that can't be right.
Okay. So let's move on to number 2 if we feel good.
Where would you find the code in an Azure Functions application that runs when an HTTP request is made? In the index.ts file, in the function JSON file, both in the function folder, in the host file, in the Azure Functions application root, the routes.ts file. This one I'm pretty sure on is A again.
Like,
The
where
only
is the function code?
The function, yeah, the function code. So that the code for each of these functions is each one of these functions has an index file, and that's where the code is. This isn't code. This is configuration. So,
Right.
And then we didn't look at any other files besides these two. So it's got to be one of these two.
Right. We didn't even look at the host JSON file, and we didn't list the sample DAP, but you can even delete that one, as you said.
Yeah, and I don't even know. I don't know what this is, and I don't know what this is.
And we got here. Belgique is saying in the chat that you are correct on 2A, so we'll roll with that.
All right. How do you access both the request and response of HTTP calls in Azure Functions? Request and response.
So do you use the context parameter that's passed the function? Do you use the HTTP request parameter passed to the function? Or do you use the request and response parameters that are passed to each function? Or do you use this async await to access request and response?
I feel like I know this one immediately too because of what we just did, where we literally took this that was passed to each function and we had to pull it out of this.
Right. We want the request and response. So C kind of looks misleading here because that's what we want, but those two are not passed to the function. Want to flip over to your function and show everybody?
Yeah. Because I remember that funny syntax, which was here, I believe. And yeah, it's this right here. So we're actually pulling this out of the context object. That is confusing. Yep. It looks like request and response, but it isn't. It's the context object.
Yep. So answers, people are saying A. Belgique and Ashish saying AAA.
I agree. Yeah, I see a pattern. Right. I should have set this on my ACT. Just A's all the way down. Probably would have.
So once you select all your answers, go ahead and click the check answers button.
Yes.
And you got 400 XP.
400 XP. What can I do with this? Like, can I buy stuff?
With that and $10, you would have $10.
$10. Yeah, but look, I got 400 XP. I don't know what to do with it, but I got it, and I'm like a level 3. Which is,
and hey, Burke, there's a couple things left here, though. You hit the continue button, right? And you're on the summary.
Yep.
There's some resources you can just show people what's on this page. Like if you want to learn more, you want to go check out the great docs that Craig has written as well. You want to try this with React or Vue instead of Angular. There's debugging resources to try it with one of those. But when you're done, if you wouldn't mind, if you go through this, if you'd also wouldn't mind rating the module, we always appreciate that. You'll get prompted when you're done. All you have to do is click unlock achievement, and then you can rate the module. Burke and I appreciate that you might do that.
Oh no, I did it.
Thank you, Burke.
I didn't. That was a joke. I'm sorry. Woof.
You did it. And any comments that you send in actually get sent to us.
Someday I would like to write Angular like I was a papa.
That is great. All right, so I'm gonna put the screen back on mine for a second because we got a little bit to wrap up with, and I see some questions going on that Craig is handling. Thank you, Craig. Let me add my screen to the stream. So, what we did in our LearnShop series, and by the way, all credit goes to Burke for the nice little handy-dandy logo that he created for our LearnShop series. This is the first of hopefully many of these that our group will be doing and others as well. Let us know how you liked the process. This will be recorded and up on YouTube. If you want to go through this again yourself, you can always find this on Learn. This link will bring you to the Learn module that we went through today. So it's aka.ms/ls-express-serverless. If you want to learn more about a lot of the questions that you had about authentication and what that input and output meant inside of the function JSON, you can check out the docs that Craig Shoemaker, who's been great on chat all day, has put together. Yeah, give it up for Craig, and thank you, Craig, so much. So check out our docs and learn. And then finally, Burke, we have something else coming up next month, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. We're going to be doing this again, right? At All Things Open, which is a fantastic conference about all things that are open.
It's a big open source conference, right? In usually in Raleigh, but now it's all virtual and online, and you can all check it out.
We're going to do a different workshop. Yeah, we're going to talk about Azure Static Web Apps, and then we're going to do another one in November, and maybe even in December. So stay tuned.
And yeah, check it out, folks.
Yeah, holler at us on Twitter if you'd like to. We'd love to hear from you. I want to thank everybody for joining. We had quite a lot of folks. Some people stayed the whole time. It was an hour and a half. Thank you for sticking with us. We'd love your feedback. You can hit us up on Twitter or leave your comments on the YouTube video, which will be available for your viewing pleasure. So that's it for this LearnShop. We hope that you have learned something. We hope that you've got a new skill today, and you can go add Azure Functions to your resume. You can do that directly. Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll see you at the next LearnShop. Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Bye-bye.